Hello and welcome to the latest video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. We are looking ahead to Fantasy Premier League Game Week 31. This time we're getting our crystal balls out to look at the goals imminent and assists imminent table. These are tables in the Fantasy Football Scout members area that will hopefully help us to predict future returns. In addition, we'll reveal our Game Week 31 transfer plans. I've got an announcement as well about my team last week. I've broken FPL. I've won it. I've completed it. I've done something that no dullard has done before. In fact, a few people have. Anyway, more of that a bit later. We'll also have some live questions and answers at the end. We'll try our best. So towards the end, we'll try and gather your questions there. My name is Joe. And joining me to unearth some of those under the radar gems is Tom Freeman, Fantasy Football Scouts Deputy Editor. Tom, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Joe. Been away for the past couple of days. So just catching up this morning, getting back up to speed ahead of Game Week 31, which looks like another interesting one. And obviously a lot of people kind of free hitting after, so more chips come into play. So yeah, it should be good. But yeah, like you say, let's see if we can kind of uncover a couple of good differentials this week.
Yeah, there was a fair bit of rotation last week as well. I mean, obviously in between Champions League games, I wasn't that confident going into it, and I think most people either did poorly or average, and I didn't see many good scores around. And this week feels like another possible, with Man City being a key team.
Yeah.
And if there's rotation there for the likes of Haaland and the popular transfer in Grealish, that is not going to be good news for many teams, probably including myself as well, but more of that a bit later. Just before we move on to see how we got on last week in the goals and assists imminent tables, a welcome to those that are joining us early in the live chat. Blake, Let's Talk Vinyl, Luke C and Taylor Johnson, thanks so much for joining us. I do have a think about some questions towards the end of the show. Also, do press that like button and do remember to subscribe and tell your friends to subscribe as well. And a final reminder that all of our videos are also available as podcasts as well. So you may well just be listening to this as a podcast rather than looking at us. But the choice is yours. Let's move on. Let's see how we're doing. So this was the goals imminent table, Game Week 30. We crashed out on all of them, but we got some returns. But a lot of them were injuries. So Willock didn't do much for us at Newcastle. Solanke at Bournemouth, who is still enticing. Bournemouth's fixtures are okay, and he's still great value at 5.5. Zaha injured, so he didn't play. Pereira at Fulham, I've highlighted. Fulham have a double coming up, and he could be a great differential enabler at 4.3. Felix at Chelsea, he crashed out. De Bruyne, it got us 2 assists, but no goals this time out. Ben Rama at West Ham and Odegaard as well. Odegaard also helped us out with the assist, but no goals. So yeah, out of any of this lot here, I mean, some might still be on the table and some others. But do you have any, before we move on to the assists imminent, any thoughts on any of these players?
I still like Solanke. I think he had 6 shots against Leicester at the weekend.
Wow.
Didn't return, but I think kind of got Haaland, Kane, and Watkins, who feel like the 3 to own right now. But in the tier below, I think Solanke is a really nice option. Pereira as well. I mean, I think we spoke about him last week, and 4.3 million on penalties. I think over the last 4 weeks or 4 matches, he's taken more shots than any other midfielder in the game. Admittedly, quite a few of them are from range, but they've got that double. The issue is with Fulham is that they've got to that 39-point mark and they're struggling. I think they've lost 5 in a row now. Yeah. So it might not be the best time. Well, yeah, I kind of had that in my notes, and it does feel a bit like that at the moment for Fulham. So whether or not midfield places are, there's a lot of competition right now. So there probably isn't the need to go for a 4.3 Pereira. But at the same time, he's shooting a lot. He's on penalties, so he might not be the worst option with that double game week and some good fixtures before or in and around that as well. And so, yeah, Felix, bit lower down, probably the time to sell Chelsea players, but we'll probably touch on that a bit more a bit
Yeah.
later on, Joe.
Yeah, definitely. And we've called this one the Blues Brothers. Chelsea will figure prominently in our chat, but unfortunately, many people will be looking to get rid of them. But could they be imminent for a goal or assist or two? So there's something for us to discuss. But yeah, a lot of people blue on the Blues. Assists imminent. Yeah, this is a marginally better though. So Chilwell didn't even get a start this time out. What do you think? Because he won't play in the next European match, Champions League, because he was he red carded in the last match, which would indicate that he could play this weekend, but he could be on the naughty step as well. So I mean, what do you think? Do you think Chilwell's going to start?
I think so. I mean, he was benched at Molineux, wasn't he? Cucurella was favoured, and then he came back in, and they switched to this back three system with the wing backs, and he played at Madrid, got sent off. But you'd think he probably comes back in, given that the return leg is only next week. His appeal has taken a bit of a dent because James is taking a lot of set pieces now, which he wasn't doing as much previously under Potter. So Chilwell was on pretty much all corners, I think. James has since taken those on, but I think if you own him, he's probably going to concede this weekend, isn't he, against a very good Brighton attack. But I think you can probably play him, but you might want to start looking at ways just as we get to 32, 33, the double, maybe transitioning him out then, because with Lampard as manager, are they going to keep enough clean sheets? I don't think they will.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking. I mean, he's in my team, and one of the things I'm looking at is if I need the money, there it is. It's 6 million. You can go down to there's a whole bunch of defenders from 4 to 4.5.
Well, this is what I did last week, Joe. I did this last week, Joe, because I needed to get Haaland in for Tony, and I needed to sell somebody, so I sold Chilwell for a -4. It worked out better than I thought, but yeah, he's there, and you can save a bit of money on him if you sell him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good example of where a hit can pay off, not just in the immediate points return you get, but also just the long-term planning. So you don't have any of that Chilwell issues. Do you get rid of him? Who do you get him down to? You've already done it. You're one step ahead of that move. Also, just in the live chat, Brian is pointing out that he's using Chilwell for Trent Alexander-Arnold, because it was Liverpool do play in 32. So if you haven't got a free hit, then Liverpool players are good. Also, they double in 34 as well. That's so definitely thinking that this is wrestling film has popped into the live chat. That is a person. Is Chilwell to Trent this weekend? It's already on that. So you're a step of the curve there.
Yeah, and Trent against Arsenal, he had this kind of he's done it on times before, but maybe not quite so prominent. He was moving into central midfield. His touch heat map from that Arsenal game was very advanced. He got the assist. Still not completely convinced about Liverpool defensively. I think they're going to concede, especially away from home. But if you've got that attacking threat, which Alexander-Arnold's got, not a bad shout.
De Bruyne, he in fact got 2 assists here. 12 million though. It's really hard to get in, especially when you've got Grealish performing, who's 5 million or so. He went up again in price today, so a little shy of 5 million cheaper. That's a big chunk of money that could be spent elsewhere. So that's why De Bruyne is not interested. But nevertheless, if people aren't getting him and he's getting returns, then he's a good player to get in if you're looking to climb the rankings. Next up, Aronson at Leeds. I'm really pleased about this because he was on the table, and I think I asked you about him, and you went, well, if I was going for Leeds, I'd go for X, Y, Z, others.
Harrison, I think I said.
Yeah, Harrison. But this was an example of how the goals and assists imminent tables can sort of highlight those players that are creeping up the tables. The stats are improving, but at the same time, they're just massively unfashionable. No one wants them. And Aronson is one of those. Got an assist, got a return.
That game, I'm not sure if you saw the game on Sunday, Joe, but it was a crazy game because Leeds for the first 45 minutes were pretty good. They were all over Palace. Palace nicked that equaliser, but they could have scored 2 or 3. I think Sam Johnston made 7 saves for Palace in the first half alone. And then after the break, I don't know what Roy Hodgson said to them, but they came out of the blocks, and Olise and Eze,
Yeah.
we'll talk about again a bit later, were fantastic. But yeah, no, it's always good when the tables throws up a name, which maybe I'm thinking, not sure about that, and then he does return. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, if I've actually temporarily forgotten who is on the goals imminent table when we show it for next week. But if there are any Palace players on, I would not be surprised because they've suddenly. I mean, it's just quite incredible. We were talking, almost like it seemed like the other week that Palace hadn't had a shot on target for a month, a whole
yeah,
month of games without a shot on target, and then suddenly the last two games, it's just. All of our opinions about Crystal Palace have totally thrown out of the water, and they're a completely different side. They're one of the most attacking sides in the Premier League at the moment, and they've
yeah.
got great
Well,
cheap players and great fixtures. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm very tempted. I'm very
Well,
tempted
we
by it.
spoke about it last week, and after that Leicester game,
Yeah,
when I think they had 31 shots, I went and put Eze in the differentials last week, so I really liked
yeah,
him. But then, having watched the first 45 minutes at Ellen Road, I thought they're just reverting back to
yeah.
type. This felt like a Vieira performance again, and his latter days in charge. So they were good last season under him for periods, but then yeah, like second half, it just completely flipped, and now you've suddenly got Olise and Eze, who
Yeah.
both look like really good cheap options.
Definitely. Fernandez next. He didn't get an assist or a goal, but
No,
for want of trying. A
yeah,
deep role, but I was listening to the match on the radio, and all I was hearing was Fernandez chants, Fernandez
yeah,
shot, and
mm.
popping up all over the place. He was running the
Yeah,
show, wasn't he?
yeah.
He's a
He
hold.
created six chances.
He's a hold at the
So
moment, isn't he?
yeah, because we might see him now. The reason he's gone a bit deeper is because of Casemiro and Ericsson not being available, and now Casemiro's back. Ericsson's kind of getting back up to fitness slowly. So yeah, I think he's a definite hold. I think Forest feels like a good fixture for him. And hopefully, we'll see him a little bit further forward, and he's obviously got that double coming up too.
Definitely. Yeah, he's fighting to stay in my team for Game Week 34 because he could become Salah.
Okay. Mm.
So it's up to him, Obviously, those that know him, let him know that, his place in my team is at stake. I've got Casado next. I'm not going to mention him because he's a Brighton mid. We've got lots of other better Brighton options in FPL. So Casado, nevertheless, was due an assist. Gray at Everton as well. I don't think many people can go for Everton. Kante at Chelsea, the perennial player whose early season for people who don't know much about FPL, basically.
Yeah, well, yeah, they look for a name which they
Yeah,
recognise under
we'll
five
get
million,
him.
don't they?
And
And
then
he
they
fits
go,
the bill sometimes.
why is it? Why isn't he getting any points? Well, that's because defensive midfielders rarely get points. Next up is Shaw, though. Now, didn't play last week. He could be back this weekend, if not this
Yeah.
weekend, the weekend after. But this just underlines that he was due an assist and that he had that attacking potential there. So, it's just good to highlight him. Gross at 5.4, yet another Brighton mid, yet another good value Brighton mid. And it's difficult for people to find a space there, so people aren't going to go there. But nevertheless, would not be surprised to see Pascal Gross get returned this weekend and Traore at Bournemouth to wrap it up, really. I don't think many people are going to go there, especially when they
He,
could get a double game week player in Pereira
yeah,
at
and
Fulham,
he
who's cheaper.
he didn't play at the
Yeah,
weekend either. He had a knock, so we can
he's
skip
forever,
over him, I
forever
think.
be on this table, I think. Okay, well, let's have a look at the goals imminent table for game week 31. So these are last four matches. You've got to have 10 shots to be on it, but no more than one goal. And I've thrown in some expected goal data as well. So this ranks them in terms of what they should have got compared to what they actually got in terms of their expected goals as well. So I used that about 2 or 3 years ago, really, and it has helped to sort of fine tune the goals imminent table. So yeah, first up, Solanke, he's still there. 7 shots on target, 3 big chances missed, 4 big chances in total. Second week on the table, 17 shots inside the box. All of his shots, all inside the box. Exactly what you were saying. I mean, you'd just be repeating yourself here, but Solanke is probably the the best of this price range strikers without a doubt, isn't he? 5.5. If you need the money.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's got, he goes to Tottenham this weekend, but I think he's got, is it West Ham, Southampton, Leeds after that? So nice little run. I think his XG delta across the season, I don't think any forward has underachieved more than him, which does tell you, perhaps indicates something about his finishing ability. But at 5.5 million, I don't feel like we can be too fussy. And I think he's on penalties as well at Bournemouth. And Bournemouth, we were talking about it before we came on air, Joe, they look like the team moving in the right direction at the moment, whereas Forest, the other promotion side, are kind of bombing. So, I don't mind Solanke as an option.
Definitely. Havertz is next. There's a lot of people who went for Havertz over, say, Ollie Watkins and are regretting that move. Nevertheless, Havertz is there, second on the table. So he's second place on this table. He's had 4 big chances, missed 3 of them, 8 shots on target, 14 shots inside the box. The joint most on this table out of his 15 shots. So one from long range there. I would tentatively say, given the way Brighton play in very attacking way and could possibly concede, I think if you've got Havertz, he's a hold for this week, I would imagine. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too, Joe. I think long term, you probably want to be looking at how you're going to get him out of your team. But I think playing him this week's okay because they played, it was Felix and Sterling against Madrid last night, wasn't it, that started? So he'll probably come back in this weekend. So, I think he's fine to play this weekend. But, by the time you get to 33, 34, you might want to be looking at potentially replacing him.
Definitely. And some people would be tempted to move him because it's a nice, easy swap price-wise to Watkins. But there's some interesting points were made on the Burning Questions video and podcast earlier this week with Praz and Sonaldo. And they were talking about sort of how with Ollie Watkins, with the doubles coming up and him having single fixtures then and some tough fixtures, you really wouldn't be playing him that much. You might find you're having to bench him because you're making way for your double game week players. And also he's got I think they pointed out 1 or 2 particularly good fixtures. So, I mean, he is on form. He can score against anyone, I think. But at the same time,
he can.
You might want to be looking elsewhere. But
Yeah, I think some of these fixtures might be good for him because I think he's a player we saw against Chelsea the other week when teams commit bodies forward. He's a good player to have on the break, and that can sometimes suit him. But I do get that what Praz and Sonaldo were saying. I think in 34 Villa play United, don't they? And it's just the one fixture. So the problem is there's not loads of other forward options. We go through a lot of phases this year, don't we? Where suddenly there's loads of forwards and Tony's an option and players like that. And then suddenly now it feels like you've got Haaland, Kane and Watkins. And there's a bit of a drop after that to like Solanke and maybe even Ferguson or something like that. But I get that. But it's hard to sell him right now, isn't it, given the form that he's in?
Yeah, definitely. Nketiah's next up. I've seen him back in training. He could be back, likely on the bench next week or the week after. But this just underlines it. There will be a rotation up front, probably mid-game. So you might see the full, Martinelli, Jesus, Saka start most games, but you might also see a rotation around. You might see substitutions around the 60-minute mark, and Nketiah could get a 30-minute run out against some tired legs. So it's worth mentioning that he is there, and he could be a differential for the game week 32. But I think it's going to be too soon really for that. But worth noting he's there. Mitrovic is next up. I'm going to skirt over him because he's banned for a while, so no one's going to get him for a while. Next up though, Elise. 5.4. We were talking about Crystal Palace. He's had 6 shots inside the box, 11 shots. So, and he's had 2 shots on target. So he himself, in the last 4 matches, has had more shots on target than Palace managed in the previous month. You think is that right? Because we were it's around.
Yeah, I mean they had that 3-game run where they didn't get a shot on target or have a shot on target, did they? So I mean. Olise is interesting because I always see him as the creator. So when he pops up on a goals imminent table, you kind of raise your eyebrows and you but think, okay, fair enough, because he's sharing free kicks, I think, with Eze, but he's taking all of their corners. He's taken every corner that they've had under Hodgson so far. And Palace have got those very good fixtures, haven't they? I
Yeah.
think 7 of their last 8 are against bottom half teams or
Yeah.
something like that. So, yeah, I think they're both pretty good options. Do you have a preference, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at game week 32. Got so I mean, we're looking ahead to game week 31 here, but I've got an eye on game week 32. I'm free hitting then. I might want to be looking for a value player, a low owned value player, and so I definitely have my eye on a Crystal Palace player to field that week. And Elise is currently the front runner for me, because as you were talking about, he has got that assist potential, that assist threat.
Mhm.
But he's also appearing on the goals imminent table, and when a player that price for an attacking team with a good fixture is appearing on both of these tables, Elise's the one I'm looking at. But yeah, I don't rule out Eze though. I mean, there's choice now. It's like Brighton, Crystal Palace and Brighton are
Yeah.
rivals, but they're competing for value, 5.5 or so million midfielders to be in our teams.
Yeah, and Eze, he's playing. He's one of the number 8, so he's a little bit more central. We saw in that goal that he scored at Ellen Road, where he gets beyond
Yeah,
Edouard, the front player,
yeah,
whereas Elise is operating a bit wider.
yeah.
But he's obviously getting in the box and he's obviously taking shots. So yeah, there's an article which has just gone on site, which Mark's written, which is comparing the two, finding out who's the best pick. So yeah, have a look at that if you're interested in them ahead of this week.
Definitely, thanks for that. Pereira, we've spoken about 4.3, still on the table, still great value. 5 shots on target, 8 shots inside the box, 18 shots in total last 4 matches. Then you've got Anthony at Manchester United, 7.3. Now Anthony and Sancho are going to have to step up in Rashford's absence, aren't they?
Great
Are,
one,
are
yeah.
they capable of doing that? And will Anthony be on the pitch long enough? Because he tends to get subbed, doesn't he, early?
Yeah, I was looking at Sancho earlier because I think he's going to take up Rashford's role while he's out. I think he'll play on the left. And I had a look at Anthony too. I think I prefer Sancho because I think he's a bit more of a creative player. I think that he can get goals too. We know what he can do from his time in the Bundesliga. And maybe just like you just said, Joe, the players are going to have to step up now without Rashford. And it might be one of those two that does it. And so, yeah, I don't mind a cheeky kind of Sancho punt, but it's hard though, isn't it? Because we don't know exactly. We're going to come to this when we discuss our teams. We don't know how long Rashford's going to be out. But if you're looking for a differential for 1 week, one of those players could do well at Forest.
Definitely. Zaha's next. What's the state of play? Still injured? Still?
Yeah, I haven't seen an update on it.
No.
He obviously didn't play last weekend. He came off in the match before against Leicester, and I think it was his groin. So we should hear from Hodgson. I don't know. I don't think it's today. I think it's tomorrow. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, in his presser, whenever that is, we'll get an update. But they haven't really missed him, have they? So I don't think they're going to rush him back.
No, so good to good to highlight him though. So if he does come back, 14 shots inside the box, 15 shots in total. Just second week on this table. Obviously, he's going to remain on this table while he's not playing with those stats, but he might drop off depending on how everyone else does. Ben Rama's next. West Ham have a double coming up, but I don't know what to make of West Ham. Sometimes I think they're okay, but I think they're basically just an avoid for me. Maybe Bowen, but Ben Rama just doesn't interest me.
We spoke about Ben Rama and we always said the danger is minutes, and he got dropped last weekend and they went and won, so we can't guarantee it.
No.
Bowen, like you say, would be the one, but 8 million for a West Ham attacker, I don't think anybody's looking at that now.
No, nevertheless, I'll just say his stats here. He's got 6 shots on target, 4 weeks on this table, which underlines how perhaps little minutes he's going to be getting, but also how he's not actually scoring. He's had 14 shots in total, and 6 inside the box, 6 on target. So not bad stats, but just not doing it. Rashford we put on there, very very unlikely to play this weekend. I would say definitely not going to play this weekend, but good to see him on here because it means that when he comes back, he's going to be due according to his last placing on the table. So 11 shots, 8 inside the box, and 5 on target. He's missed 4 chances, but he's had 5 big chances. So that's joint with Nketiah's most on this table. So underlines, that's probably why I'm minded to keep him on the bench for a little while, just in case he does come back soon. But I mean, I mean, what's the take from like you and Neil and the others at Fantasy Football Scout of what Ten Hag means by he'll be missing a few games? What's
Well,
the idea there?
there's a lot of uncertainty around, isn't it? I mean, I think if you've got a free hit in 32, I think that means there's 5 games between now and when you want him for, which
Yeah,
is double game
yeah,
week 34. He's got Sevilla twice, Forest, he's got Brighton in the FA
mm,
Cup, and I think he's got one more game as well. Is it against Spurs, maybe? Anyway, he's got 5 games. So a few games that suggests that he'll be okay for it. But yeah, I mean, it's a very tough one to know. You don't know if the club are being optimistic with
mm,
saying a few games. They said they'll be back in. He'll confident we'll be back for the run in, didn't they?
yeah,
I think if you're playing a free hit and you've got a good first sub, which I think a lot of people have, I think you could do that. But I think if you don't have a free hit, then I think he's probably a sell
mm,
for Grealish, probably.
yeah,
Probably looks like the best option. But again, it's not definite, not definite start this weekend, given the Bayern match coming next week. So even that isn't a straightforward move. But people are probably who are moving for Grealish will be saying, well, it's not just a 1 week transfer anyway, you know. So
mm,
they've got the double, haven't they, coming up? But yeah, it's hard to know exactly
yeah.
what to do with Rashford.
Yeah, it's because he'll
Um,
be
so,
because he's if he is back for 34, he's a transfer you want to make. So if you use the
yeah.
transfer to get rid of him, then there's 2 transfers. Whereas what you could do is just let him rot on the bench for a little while and see what the lay of the land
Yeah.
is in 34.
Now, something that I didn't realise, which I spoke was in one of Neil's
Mm,
pieces on the site. He said that now game week 33 is a midweek round, so there's a Tuesday deadline, but United don't play till Thursday. So we're probably not going to have a Ten Hag
yeah,
presser before the deadline of 33. It's probably going to be on the Wednesday. We
right.
might find that the
Mm,
club issue a separate update, but in terms of Ten Hag facing the media. But that complicates matters in 34 as well, because they're playing in game week 33 on the Thursday.
mm,
That sometimes means that he won't have a presser on the Friday before the 34
uh,
deadline. He might speak to the media after the game of the Thursday match. And then you'll find these kind of annoying embargoed quotes, which are kind of
mm,
drip fed out. So it's really difficult. You would hope with a player of Rashford, the interest in him, that we'll get updates, we'll
yeah,
see if he's in training, that kind
I
of
think we
thing. But in
will.
terms of, yeah, I think we will too. But I think in terms of Ten Hag sitting down and being
Mm.
asked the question, we might not have that
No,
ahead
I
of
mean
it. But yeah,
that's
it's a
yeah,
very tricky one.
yeah, that is a really good point. But I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, we'll see the training pictures, and because of that interest, all the in the know journalists in that area, the Manchester Evening News,
Yeah,
for example, I think if I'm going to game week 34 with him in my team, and it's looking like, I haven't seen anything of him in training. It's looking, or he's just training on his own,
yeah,
or there's just nothing concrete about him. There's no indication. So if he's, for example, on the bench on game week 33, then that's fine for me. I'll take that. If
yeah.
if he's any way like that, but if he's nowhere near the team in 33, then I'll probably look to 34 to remove him and go elsewhere, because there's just too much doubt there, and then maybe reassess him, for later in the season. But for that's the way I'll look at that. But yeah, so if you see him on the bench in 33, as someone who's benched him yourselves, or kept him in your squad, I think you can look at that with some confidence that he'll play.
Yeah, and I think if you have got that free hit, this buys you a bit more time without being forced into that decision. And we're fortunate that a lot of the people who have got a free hit have bench boosted recently, and you've got a good squad
Yeah,
which can kind of absorb a Rashford benching in 31 and 33. And you can rely on, Brighton going to Chelsea. And I think, is it Forest they play in
yeah,
33? So they've got two, if you've got to play double Brighton midfield, I don't think that matters.
that's
I think that
not
could
the end
still
of the
work out
world.
well.
No.
No, exactly.
Let's have a look at the assists imminent table going over for game week 31. So this is where we get a lot more Chelsea interest. So we've got Havertz on the goals imminent. Top placing, James. So it's not Chilwell's top now, it's James. 5.8, 10 chances created, 8 corners, last 4 matches, 10 successful crosses, first week on the table. He has had 1 assist. So that would indicate he's going to leap off the table in a good way. And then Chilwell's just behind him with 9 chances created, 22 corners, last 4 matches. But as you were saying, that was often from the Potter era, not the Lampard era. 8 successful crosses, 2 second week on the table. Didn't get much of a chance like last week to hop off. No assists. So yeah, I mean, I think they're being sold, but I mean, I think they're holds. I think they're holds at the moment. James and Chilwell. James is looking the better, but they're both holds, I think. What do you? But you can sort of see the lay of the land here.
Yeah, I mean they've got. You'd expect them to concede this weekend. I think they blank after that, and then it's Brentford at home, which feels, and then Arsenal. So I don't think the fixtures are great, but they do get better in 35. They've got Bournemouth and Forest. So for me, who sold Chilwell last week, that might be a time when I look, maybe we'll see how they fare under Lampard, but then James might be a player who becomes an option then. I think if you need money, I don't mind selling them at all. But again, I think because most of their appeal is from their attacking threat. I think even playing them in the odd fixture where you expect them to concede, it isn't the end of the world because they could get something. But it's been a bit of a rocky start under Lampard, hasn't it? And with Brighton next, I don't think anybody would be surprised if they went and lost that one.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to keep Chilwell though, but yeah, I'm not expecting a lot. Fernandes next.
You're not going to take him out for a hit, are you? You're not going to take him out for a hit, are you? So
I
completely understand why you're playing because he can pop up with an attacking return.
Yeah, definitely. However, I do have a Brentford defender on my bench, which we'll talk about our teams in a bit. And I think with a game against Wolves for Brentford, Henry's actually possibly, arguably, a better pick than Chilwell. But that's something we'll discuss in a bit. Fernandes is next. Deep lying role, but nevertheless, last 4 matches, 13 chances created, 16 corners, all those set pieces, 3 successful crosses, second week on the table. I think I'm going to get a return out of my Bruno this weekend against Nottingham Forest, and I think a lot of other owners should feel equally confident, especially being on this table. What do you think?
Yeah, he feels like he's due a return, doesn't he? I think we've been a bit unlucky over the past few weeks. He's creating a lot of chances, and wouldn't it be great to see him back as like a number 10 or on the right side of that kind of attacking 3, getting into the box a bit more. And maybe he's the player to step up with Rashford out. Yep. They need their big players to kind of get them over the line, get that Champions League spot, and he's the player that tends to step up when they need him.
Definitely. We've got Gray next to Everton, Casado at Brighton. I'll sort of skip over them because I don't think there's going to be a lot of interest in them. Estupinan is next, though. There is interest in him. He's in a lot of teams, and if people are looking for a Brighton defensive asset, he looks the one to get if you want to get attacking threat as well, assist potential. 10 chances.
Do you think he's better than Dunk, Joe?
I think he is in terms of FPL returns. Dunk can get the odd goal, but obviously clean sheets is the same. 10 chances created though, 4 successful crosses. Playing along with Matoma down that flank. There's a lot of potential with Matoma's goal threat. Matoma's not on any of these tables because he's already done it. He's already scoring and assisting every week. So Estupinan could be the one to be assisting him there. I mean, there is the possibility of reduced minutes, possibly coming off in the last 20 minutes of matches. He may even get a rest in one match or so. But we've seen Lewis Dunk get a rest as well before, and so you never know. But I think if I was going for a Brighton defender now, I would get Estupinan still because for that attacking threat. Kante next, Chelsea. And then Shaw still there with his assist potential. Still knocking on. We've spoken about him. Gross and Kovacic at Chelsea. Kovacic is the one where I'll be very pleased with myself at this table if he indeed gets an assist, because he's exactly the kind of player that this Imminent table highlights. 8 chances created. No corners, no goals, no successful crosses. First week on the table. He's exactly the kind of annoying player to get an assist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can move on. I mean, luckily we can sort of sketch over some of these players because there won't be a lot of interest. But yeah, I definitely think those Chelsea ones are of interest. The wing backs, what to do with them, and Bruno Fernandes and Estupiñán. Yeah, let's move on to our teams. So we'll go for you first. Do you want to read out your team and what your possible plans are?
Yeah, so got a 3-4-3 formation with Raya in goal. Currently starting him over Kepa. I think there's more chance of a clean sheet going to Molineux, which you touched on a minute ago, Joe, with Henry, who I'm also starting at the moment, alongside Gabriel and Trippier. And then I've got Saka, McAllister, Fernandes and Marsh in midfield. Kane, Haaland captain and Watkins up front. And the 4 substitutes: Kepa, Alex Moreno, who I bought in last week, or Chilwell for that -4, and Botman and currently red flagged Rashford as well.
So what are you going to? You're free hitting in 32.
Yeah.
So if you don't use a transfer, it doesn't carry over. So you lose it.
Exactly.
But this is great.
Well, I was considering selling Rashford earlier in the week, and I was thinking I could go to somebody like Grealish, and I think Grealish will start this weekend. I think Mahrez probably comes in on the right because he didn't get any minutes. Is Pep going to switch? They still need to win this game. Is he going to switch both wide players? But is Bernardo going to come out and Grealish? And that would probably mean Cole Palmer would have to play, which could happen. But I do think that Grealish feels very important for that team right now. So I think him as a replacement for Rashford could work. But then you're essentially wasting 2 transfers, aren't you, by selling him this week and then bringing him back in if you need to in 34. So I do think that free hit buys us a bit of time. It means I can play Marsh, who I'd like to play this week anyway at Chelsea. So yeah, I think I'm kind of edging towards keeping Rashford at the moment, but then I do need to use a transfer somewhere else, and it's not obvious where to use it.
I think.
Yeah.
I think you can afford. Have you got any money in the bank?
No, 0.
Nothing in the bank. Because I was looking at your goalkeepers. Because I'm looking at sort of weak links, and there isn't many weak links. But if there was a link that can be improved, it would be your goalkeepers. For example, an Edison, or a Brighton. Or Steele at Brighton.
Well, on my notes, Joe, the next bit I've put is Kepa to Steele. And benching this week, obviously I'd play Raya ahead of, I think I'd play Raya ahead of Steele. Maybe it isn't obvious, but that's what I'd do, I think. But then Steele is kind of there. One, it helps my structure after a bench boost by having a bit less money on the bench. Yeah. He's there for double game week 34. I can bring him in that week and play him. So that is a really good. It's good that you kind of suggested that without me leading you into it.
No, you didn't at all. We didn't even talk about that at the start.
Yeah, I did consider making a defensive move and changing maybe Henry, but because I've got no money in the bank, a 4.5 defender, nobody's convincing me. I looked at Martinez at Man United, but I think. Will there be rotation? They play Sevilla tonight. He's been talking at Maguire. Ten Hag has quite a bit recently. It wouldn't surprise me if he comes in at the weekend. And let's be honest, Shaw is the Man United defender we all want when he's fit. So I don't want to be lumbered with Martinez, really, when I might want to get Shaw closer to the 34 deadline. So yeah, I think at the moment it probably is that Kepa to Steele transfer, which doesn't have an impact on game week 31, but it just starts to get my structure in, my price points a bit in order, and sets me up for game week 34 a bit better, providing he keeps his place, which we hope he will do.
Well, I mean, I think that sounds the best move. Because you're already thinking it, and then as we were talking about it, and I looked at your team, and I think a lot of people would as well. You're just looking at where can be improved, and you've just described it there. You're buying yourself a goalkeeper for the double game weeks coming up, in a defence in a team which is actually better than Chelsea, which I never would have thought. As Brighton were about to dip out the league playing Hereford, that I would say Brighton are better than Chelsea, but they are.
but there are question marks over Kepa as well. He made a mistake last night, didn't he?
Yeah.
We know that Lampard previously favoured Mendy, who's only coming back from a shoulder injury, but I'd be very surprised if Mendy doesn't play between now and the end of the season. I
Yeah.
think he will be given an opportunity.
Okay.
Kepa criticised Lampard after he left about his tactics, so might not happen this weekend, but I really wouldn't be surprised if between now and the end of the season, Mendy's given an opportunity to kind of stake his claim. So maybe by getting out of that
Yeah.
now and removing Kepa before the inevitable price drop once he is dropped from the team, which I think will happen. It's not guaranteed. That's just what I think will happen. So yeah, maybe that is the one to do. Then free hit 32, saving 33 probably. Then 34, I'll remove, I think, Saka and Kane with 2 free transfers, bring in Salah, and then a forward, which will probably be 7 or 8 million. So that will be one to decide on nearer the time. But yeah, that's the rough plan from me.
Yeah, it just makes perfect sense and frees up money as well. Before we go on to my team, I just a reminder those in the live chat do come up with some questions for us. After I go through my team, we'll turn our attention to yourselves in the live chat, and we'll try and answer as many questions as we can. Okay, here's my team. We don't usually go for ranks in here in the goals imminent because you should listen to our advice, whatever ranks we are. But I've made an exception just this once, and it will probably be just this once for the rest of my career, because I've been playing for 14 years and this has never happened to me there. So in last week I had a rank of 11,791. This week, I have a rank of 11,791. So I have the fabled grey arrow. I know that Az and Luke were talking about it on their Black Box podcast last night, because it is really rare, and it's especially rare at that rank as well. If you're top 10 or something, it will happen. But I've never seen that for me. And I know some people get grey arrows, but they're very rare, aren't they? There's something to cherish.
I've never had one, and I've been playing similar amount of time to you, I think, Joe, maybe slightly less, but yeah, it's a very unusual feat for that to happen, isn't it? For everything fall in place like that. And I think you were saying, wasn't it, live FPL had kind of placed you one out or something?
Yeah,
like
they
that,
had,
hadn't it? And
I was on a one place green arrow, which I thought was incredible, but they've just the gods have created something even more incredible, grey arrow. Nevertheless,
it's crazy, and a fantastic rank as well, and you're in a very good position.
So yeah, so I'm in a position where I can consolidate a little bit. I don't have to take too many risky punts, but at the same time, you've got to sort of keep moving, because there's some flags have appeared. There's injuries. Players like Chilwell, you mentioned, and Maddison is in my team. Their form is just dipped. So you got to keep moving. So I am got a 3-4-3 this time out. I'm going for Steele in goal. I've got Kepa and Steele as my goalkeepers. Brighton are more attacking than Chelsea, so I just think there's more chance of a clean sheet there. Nevertheless, if not, as we've seen on the goals and assists imminent tables, it's packed full of Chelsea players, so he'll get save points. So I think I'll get points out of Steele there. I've got Trippier, Chilwell I'm playing as well, on the off chance it's a 0-0, which is unlikely, on the off chance that if the mighty Steele's goal is breached, Chilwell could be involved. Shaw I've got in there in case he starts. So I'm hopeful there against Forest. I've got Henry as my first sub, so I'm more than happy. And as I was talking about, I'm actually tempted to play Henry over Chilwell, which is a possibility. So
Wolves don't score many, do they?
Yeah, I'm very happy with Henry there, and I've got Botman as my second sub as well, so another playable sub. Across my midfield, I've got Bruno Fernandes, Mitoma, McAllister, so that double Brighton attack there. Maddison is in my side at the moment, and he's there because he won't be in my side. So I'm looking to remove him for Grealish. So I could move Rashford to Grealish, I can move Maddison to Grealish. And I think other people be in that similar situation. For me, I'm looking at Maddison because he's not a player I want. I know he has quite a good fixture in game week 32. Game week 33. So when you come out of the free hit, if you're free hitting 32, he has a good fixture 33, but I don't want him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, his fixtures are good. He's got Wolves at home and 32 as well. So for those without a free hit, and he's got good fixtures after Everton Fulham, but it's how you see it going under Dean Smith, which took me by surprise, the appointment. I do like Dean Smith, obviously being a Villa fan. He did very well with us to get us promoted and kept us in the division. But yeah, quite an interesting appointment. And I mean, he's quite an attacking manager.
For a player like Maddison, so I suppose the equivalent, I mean, different position, but the equivalent with Grealish is in I mean, is he one to recognise that a team does have a player that's head and shoulders above everyone else?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at Villa, everything was funneled through Grealish. He played on the left, but he was pretty much given a free role. He would drift inside. He would pop up in number 10 position. So it's good for Maddison. But I do agree, looking at your team, Joe, I think, and it might be best to sell and then maybe look at him again further towards the end of the season if we're seeing an uptick in their performances, because there's not much to go on. They've been terrible recently, haven't they, Leicester? Yeah. So all of that is just staying out. It might work under Dean Smith, but we don't know. And you've given him lots of opportunities.
If I didn't play him, if I didn't field him, so for example, I would move Rashford to Grealish, and as I said, what if Rashford comes back? Then there's two transfers sort of gone, whereas I move Maddison there. And also in my earlier bus team when Rashford wasn't injured, Maddison would have been my first sub anyway. I would not have played him this week.
No.
So I don't feel if he gets points, and I don't feel bad because I just wouldn't have played him. Anyway,
I mean, City might rotate a bit, but it's a very tough game. It wouldn't surprise me if Leicester score on a counter attack or something. But it's obviously about as tough as.
So something to think about. I mean, I don't rule out removing Rashford, but I think I'm just looking at sort of weak links in my team. And Chilwell and Maddison are there at the moment as weak links. I don't consider Botman and Henry weak links because they're just handy players. I mean, Henry was my third sub last time out, and if he'd have been my first sub instead of Botman, I would have got 5 points out of him because he got a cheeky assist.
Yeah, and Botman as well. I think Newcastle have a good game in 34. I think they play at Southampton at home, so you'll probably be happy. You'll be happy to double up with Trippier in that week, maybe.
Yeah, and of course they have a double game week coming up as well, as do Brighton.
They do. Yeah.
And up front, I've got Haaland, who's my captain because it's Haaland and he's playing Leicester. I've got Kane as my vice captain, just in case. And I've got Watkins at home to Newcastle. Just Watkins' form is so good at the moment. I can probably see myself keeping Watkins for the duration.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
he doesn't need to be removed.
Just don't need to be removed. So that's me.
Have you considered captaincy, Joe? Have you? Is it? I mean, it's always been. Have you wavered at all in terms of minutes, or has it always been Haaland?
It's always Haaland. Yeah, same with last week. I mean, there was the threat of minutes there, but I didn't care because I'll take 45 minutes, 60 minutes of Haaland over anyone. And Kane is a vice captain there, but against Bournemouth is Spurs. I mean, Spurs are Spursy, and Kane is Keynesy. So Kane could get a return, but I've seen it before. I mean, I've been scarred by, in the past, the classic game, I think, was Spurs against Cardiff. Everyone captained Kane. Everyone transferred Kane and got him, captained him, and then they lost 1-0 or something to Cardiff. It was just awful.
I remember that because I didn't. And... I went against the masses, and I can't remember for the lot. It might have been Vardy or something I captained, and it paid off. And that was the one of the reasons, the catalysts for a good season. But it does link back to, I mean, Bournemouth, we mentioned earlier, have been playing well. I think Spurs beat them, and I think they probably score a couple of goals. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was 1-1 going into the last 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. But Bournemouth are a better opposition. Spurs are Spurs, and Leicester. Well, unless Dean Smith can do a Roy Hodgson and turn them into Barcelona 74 or something, but Haaland is the Yeah, it's the one for me. So I've got in my notes here, game week 31, Maddison to Grealish, a bench injured Manchester United players, 32 free hit, 33 save. I think it's really important to save a transfer in 33. I'm going to do everything I can to save that transfer. 34 is double game week. I'm going to either do 2 transfers or 3 with a hit, sort of a mini wild card. And I've got Bruno or Rashford to Salah somehow. Which one of them, I don't know. They face Villa and Brighton, which I think are tough games for Manchester United. And Salah has Spurs and Fulham at home. And it's that at home that appeals to me, particularly that Fulham fixture. And one of Chilwell or Kane, depending on who goes, will fund that. So that's my plan there. Possibly in just 2 moves. I don't need to take a hit. But yeah, Chilwell or Kane, depending on which of Bruno or Rashford moves out. I think I'm okay not having both of them. And if Rashford's not fit, then the decision's made. It's easy.
Yeah, well, it's Villa and Brighton, isn't it? And 2 teams in good form at the moment. I think they're great options to have them both. But I think the midfield places are really competitive in that double game week 34, aren't they? Because I don't own Matoma. I have Martial McAllister. And part of me was thinking, do I triple up on Brighton mids and go Mitoma in for Rashford this week, which I didn't mention earlier. But I don't think I'm going to do that, because then I'm thinking, well, that takes up a large chunk of my midfield spots all on Brighton. It means that I want Salah, I want Rashford, I want Fernandes. There's a lot of players who you want, isn't there? So
definitely,
it's a lot of competition.
Okay, well, let's have a look at some of these questions before we wrap up. We've got in the live chat. Jody asked, Mahrez in. I think Mahrez will play and get a return. But I wouldn't want him long term. So
exactly the same, with Foden kind of coming back in future weeks, then Mahrez isn't in favour at the moment. I think he'll play this week, and he's a great option if he plays. If Haaland's off the pitch, he could be on penalties. So in terms of if you were to in a free hit, it wouldn't surprise me if he pops up in the scout picks this week. Because it is that freshness. He's well rested. They've got the return leg next week, so great 1 week punt. But have a plan out going forward, because I don't think you'll feel confident holding him long term.
Akbar asks, no love for Bowen. All of the players that we've talked about, or the players in our team, the players we want to get in, Bowen has not been mentioned, only in passing.
As well, because they play the Europa Conference League quarter-final tonight. So this Arsenal game is sandwiched in between their 2 quarters. This is a well-rested Arsenal who are looking to bounce back. So this isn't a good fixture, I don't think, for West Ham this weekend against Arsenal. Then it's a really nice Bournemouth game. But then they play Liverpool at home. I think Man City is one of the double game week fixtures. So I just spoke about the amount of the volume of options in midfield at the moment. It's very hard to put Bowen in the top 5 midfielders to own, I think, right now.
Yeah, as they call it on Burning Questions podcast, midfield real estate, and that's what it is. It's you can't free up those spaces. Notorious Nerd asks a question, Gabriel to Ake, but you can easily just basically say whoever you've got as an Arsenal defender, if you have one, to a Man City defender. Do you think that's a good move for the run-in?
Maybe long term, but I don't think you need to do it this week, because like we just said, Arsenal go to West Ham. Now, no team has kept more clean sheets than Arsenal away from home. No team has conceded fewer goals than Arsenal away from home this season against a West Ham team who are in action tonight. So I'm playing Gabriel. I think he's a decent option for this week. I think beyond that, it's Southampton in 32. So that's a good fixture for Arsenal as well. But then they play City, Chelsea, Newcastle. So that might be the time then that you want to switch an Arsenal defender or midfielders, if you own them as well, to double game week players. But I certainly don't think you need to do it this week. And there's always that little bit of doubt with Man City as well. Ake feels pretty nailed in that team. But would it surprise me massively if Laporte is favoured at the weekend for this one? I wouldn't be massively surprised by it. So I think you can play Gabriel this week. I think that's fine.
Yeah. Philip asks, so Philip is in a very lucky position. He's playing his wild card, still has it left in game week 33. He's set up now to free hit in 32. So he basically needs to use a transfer this week or lose it, and which is a similar situation that you're in. So he's looking. So he doesn't have the long term issue here. He's just after just a 1 week punt basically.
Yeah.
And he's looking at either Chilwell to Alexander Arnold this week,
Yeah.
or Rashford to Mahrez.
Yeah.
And he already owns Grealish. I think in his position, I think I would go for Mahrez. No one's going to have Mahrez.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's. But we spoke about it earlier. He feels like the perfect free hit punt, doesn't he? Which is essentially what's happening there. So yeah, because Liverpool, as good as Alexander Arnold looked in the attacking phase, this is a Liverpool team away from home who aren't great defending.
Yeah.
So if he loses that clean sheet, then I don't know the upside with Mahrez of getting a brace on Saturday evening. I would probably be looking at that. I suppose if you didn't want to go for him, wouldn't be against like a Sancho punt or something for 1 week, knowing that he'll probably play him instead of Rashford. But I think Mahrez I'd put a bit ahead of that.
I think in Philip's case, and anyone else with a wild card left, you can wild card away from Mahrez, so it looks like he'll play in this very good fixture against his old club, which I seem to remember him doing really well against Leicester when he's played for City against them.
I can't recall off the top of my head, but it wouldn't. I mean, when Mahrez gets minutes, he tends to do pretty well, doesn't he? He's a pretty reliable asset in that sense. So if you think he's going to get the start, which I do this week,
I think it's worth the shot going for Philip there, because he can run away from it. You and I can't run away from Mahrez. We're stuck with him if we get him in.
Exactly.
Max Lane, he needs to replace Iheanacho. Is it and is it worth getting rid of Chilwell if it means getting Jesus instead of Isak? So, okay, I'll pick that. He's looking at Isak instead of Iheanacho, but he could take a hit and get rid of Chilwell like you did last week, and that mean that he goes for Jesus. I mean, I would say it depends on when you're free hitting. If you're not free hitting in 32, get Jesus. But if you are, you can just get him in Gameweek 32 anyway. And Arsenal's fixtures aren't great, but they are the best team.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one with Jesus because we keep, he's coming back from injury. We mentioned Nketiah. I don't think he'll impact his minutes too much, but I do think that Trossard in there has played very well in that role. So we might see a few early subs, especially if they're winning. They're 2-0 up or something with 20 minutes to go or something. We might see him withdrawn a bit. He looks a good option though. Maybe I unfairly wrote him off a couple of weeks ago when you mentioned him, Joe, because he appeared on our tables and I kind of dismissed him. And since then he's done really well. So, but Isak as well feels good. But again, there's that threat of Wilson. Now I think Isak, they actually played together at Brentford. Eddie Howe changed it at halftime and played the two of them together, and it worked really well. But after the match, Eddie Howe said that isn't going to happen too often in the run-in because it's a tactical thing. Playing them together, it's not for every game. But it does feel like Isak is going to get plenty of minutes, and he looks very good as well. I'd probably be tempted to do that move rather than take the -4.
Okay.
For Chilwell and to get Jesus in, but
we've had a message from Philip in the chat. He is going to do that move. Mahrez is a no-brainer punt. Thanks for that. So good luck with that.
Absolutely.
The Mr. Blackhand's going to go even further. Mahrez captain, and the reason he's saying that is because he doesn't own Haaland, and there are a few people like Mark. Those who are members of Fantasy Football Scout would have seen his video last week talking about why he's not getting Haaland, which would ultimately cost him. But if you don't have Haaland, and in Mr. Blackhand's case, is the only way to get him is to sell Kane, which he doesn't want to do ahead of Bournemouth. He's actually thinking of captaining Mahrez. I think in his case, give it a go. I think that's okay. But
he's got Kane, did you say?
Yeah, he's got Kane, but he doesn't want to get rid of Kane for Haaland at home to Bournemouth, which I can understand. I think in his case,
me, I'd captain Kane, but only because this is Pep, because it's Mahrez has fallen out of favour, hasn't he? Because Pep didn't like what he's doing or something. Now I think he starts. But we're all thinking, Grealish will be the one withdrawn early for Palmer. But maybe it'd be, I don't know. Minutes are important. Kane is going to get those minutes. He's going to get 90 minutes, isn't he? And so, I mean, it's very punty. I maybe I'm a bit too safe as a manager. I think bringing Mahrez in is a great punt this week, but the captaincy,
Yeah.
oh, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think you persuaded me. If I was in that position now, I think, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
is
Kane's consistent.
Kane's my vice
Like,
captain
come on,
anyway, so
like,
yeah, he's the one.
yeah.
And okay, Magic69 asks, would you start Isaac or March in 31? That's a real 50-50 call, isn't it?
Yeah. Ooh, we might get a bit of team news maybe before because it's the early kickoff on Saturday, isn't
Yeah,
it? And if we knew that Isak was going to start, I would start him over Marsh because I think he looks so good when he does play. You might get lucky with that because it is the 12:30.
yeah.
If we don't, I would expect us to get news. If we didn't, then it's hard because does Wilson start? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I mean, I think March is a good sub there, but if you think Isak's going to start, then yeah, he would be the one for me
Yeah,
because he put on penalties as well. I just think he's got more routes to goal. Henry asks,
yeah.
Kepa out for a -4 to free up funds. He needs to do it. This is you. This is basically what you were talking about. He wants to do free up funds, and he won't have that spare free transfer. So yeah, just it looks to be a very similar call to you in that he needs to use a transfer, Kepa
Oh,
out.
so it's not for a hair,
Yeah,
or
but
is it
he's
for
saying
a
it's for a
hair?
-4, so I'm not actually entirely sure. So there's a similar theme there in is Kepa worth removing
Yeah.
if you need to use a transfer. But if he's taking a -4, it sounds like he's probably already made a transfer and he's looking at another one. In which case, that's a dangerous route to go down. They get a bit more-ish, those hits, and then before you know it, you're sliding down the ranks and out the mini leagues. So yeah,
Yeah, I think
Kepa
don't
out,
forward.
yes. -4, no. Would
Mm,
probably be the
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, here, let's get one from Akbar here. Kanate, is he worth a punt as an enabler in the Liverpool defence?
No. No, I mean I've just been like with Liverpool's defence, they're just not reliable.
No,
You
fair
know,
enough.
they consider, they concede so many big chances. They are better at Anfield, but even in that, they're not going to play Arsenal every week, but in
No.
the first 40, 45 minutes before that Xhaka incident, they were completely, they were kind of blown away a little bit really then, conceded a lot of chances. Just don't feel, I mean, going to Leeds on Monday night with a packed Ellen Road, I can see Bamford getting a goal in that, or Sinistera or something like that. And so, yeah, I don't feel any confident. I don't think there's enough upside with Konate. What is he, 4.8 or something
Yeah.
like
No, I
that?
mean, I
I think
wouldn't go
that,
there. Just
no,
no
I don't
interest. No
think
interest.
so. And even in the double, Fulham's a good home fixture, but they play for Tottenham at home, and you would think that Kane and Son, although Son's playing really badly at the moment, but Kane anyway, you back him to score there, I think. So
Definitely.
I think there are better options than Konate.
Okay, we'll leave it at that then. Tom, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks everyone else for joining us in the live chat. Thanks for your questions. Good luck to our goals and assists imminent tables for next week. But good luck to you, Tom, and good luck to all those joining us in the live chat and those listening and watching back again. We'll be back next week, hopefully in our normal slot. We moved kindly for the last couple of weeks to accommodate. Burning questions, and also you were off on Tuesday as well this week, but we should be back in our normal slot Tuesday next week as well, and also next week for a rare appearance of the captaincy video. Mark will be joining me next Wednesday. We penciled that in, so we'll record it on Wednesday, so hopefully it'll go out Wednesday, maybe Thursday morning. Because there's no Haaland, so therefore there's a captaincy chat to be had, particularly for those who will be looking to back Liverpool assets, Salah in particular, or Arsenal assets, which is better. We'll discuss that next week. Plenty more videos to come and podcasts for the rest of this week as well, including team news, the all important team news on Friday. And we've got David Monday back on the weekends as well. Karam's on Saturday. We've got David Monday on a Sunday. I actually called it FPL. I think his show's FPL Sunday with David Monday, and I accidentally on the thumbnail called him FPL Sunday. I got confused. Anyway, that's his fault for having a name of a day of the week. So anyway, watch his show. It's a good one. Good luck, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye now.
Cheers, Jack.